Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Galaxy of Geeks podcast live stream extravaganza, weekly extravaganza. And this is where we break down all things geek, or at least the things that we're watching that we're big fans of, and hoping that you are fans of as well. I am joined by my co-host, as always, my amazing co-host, Mr. Victor Ruiz. Thank you, sir.
Hello, chap.
Hello, old chum.
Hello, chap. You sweet cheeky bastard, you.
Absolutely. So here we are once again doing a live version of the show for everybody that's participating right now, watching us live. Please feel free to drop comments, questions into the comments, and we'll see them and we'll address them as we go. We'll bring them up on screen. I want to thank everybody who will be watching a replay of this, and also for all of you that will be listening to the audio version of this. We love you, we appreciate you, and we thank you so much for continuing to subscribe to our wonderful little show. And if this is the first time you're watching us or listening to us, Victor and I implore you, we urge you to please hit that subscribe button wherever you're watching this. And if you're listening to this on whatever your favorite podcast distribution method is, please hit that subscribe button. So that way you get notified every time a new episode is dropped. Victor and I have been doing this show every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the last few months. And our goal is to keep that coming and keep that going as long as everybody here keeps showing up and listening. We have a good time doing this, and we are so happy that you join us each and every week for all the fun and shenanigans.
Yes. And as Han would say, punch that subscribe button.
Punch that subscribe button. So without further ado, let's jump into it, and we'll start the show as we've been doing for the last bunch of weeks, where we were talking about WandaVision. And now that Winter Soldier, the Bucky and Winter Soldier show. I know, I said that on purpose. The Falcon and Winter Soldier show is now in full swing on Disney+. Yep. That seems to be the big topic. So we'll be kicking off the show this week with our reactions to the second episode, which aired last Friday. Once again, as always, we record this when we do this live stream. It's a Thursday before the next episode drops. So tomorrow, episode 3 will be dropping, so our reactions will be based on last week's previous episode, which is episode 2. So, away we go.
Correct. Yeah. Initially, I think that the first thing we really need to address outside of it's funny, we watch a like a recap show that someone that I think he's Mexican that does it, so it's in Spanish, but he does, I don't know if he's using some sort of software because the presenter of the show is supposed to be Tony Stark. Okay. So it's like Tony Stark, it's actually Robert Downey Jr. like talking and everything, but like he's saying like a bunch of like absurd comments based on just different like Easter eggs and filling you in on what happened in the comics and so on. So it's actually pretty funny. But every time that he talked about U.S. Agent, he referred to him as the Jaw.
The Jaw.
The Jaw, yeah. So it was really funny. He said, not to mistake the real Captain America with the Jaw. So it was like the running joke throughout the that recap. It was pretty funny. So I think we saw Falcon and we saw Sam and Bucky paired up a lot quicker than what we expected, given that they were far apart in the first episode, and we were like, well, you know, we could see this happen at the end of episode 2 where there's more like development, but it happened like real quick, you know, because there was that one like catalyst to bring them together. It was the Jaw. It was, you know, seeing someone else taking the helm of Captain America and Bucky showing up saying like, hey, that's supposed to be you. You know, Steve gave you the shield for a specific reason. And it was kind of cool how, you know, first they go on that mission together.
Right.
They you know, get caught up. They think that they're saving Memphis Nest, but she's actually the leader of the Flag Smashers, or she is the Flag Smasher.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember, or I don't know if the group is going to be referred to that, or if it's just if she's referred to that, or what the whole deal is.
If it's an individual.
Yeah. So we saw that, and then we saw obviously the new Cap, and Battlestar happened to show up.
Yeah.
And immediately when he says, "Well, I'm Battlestar," and Bucky's like,
"Stop the car!
This guy, you know?
Stop the car!"
yeah, stop the car! Stop the car! I'm getting out
immediately.
Yeah, so it was so funny. I was waiting for him to like jump out, a la, you know, the plane, because immediately he was like, you know, this guy's like some like fresh guy off, you know, off the boat type deal. And no offense to anyone, my father got off the boat when he came to the U.S. So anyone who wants to say anything, my family got into the U.S. because they legally got off the boat. But anyway, what I'm trying to get to is he was annoyed that he fought for so long and had to do all this stuff to get any sort of commendations, which were later taken away because of the brainwashing that took place. And then this guy just shows up. He's automatically, you know, given a suit and given a place, and he's like, you know, give me a break. Well, what is this? You know, who are these jokers?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I get you get the whole feeling that his mindset is like, who are these posers? Like, these guys are just posers, and they're just government pawns put into suits and paraded in front of the public, you know, to take the spots of these iconic heroes. And you know, I mean, you're definitely setting up that power struggle here, and it's like, you know, John Walker won't let it go. You know, we eventually see, you know, then we've got the great, the awesome scene, which I really enjoyed, was when Bucky takes Sam to go see Isaiah. And I thought that was such a great scene, because I didn't expect that to happen at all. And I was like, whoa, this is cool. Yeah. And that was just such a cool moment.
And it's so many things at once, you know, because that really plays into like the, you know, Tuskegee Airmen type thing, where you think about how, you know, a lot of African-American soldiers were experimented on before World War II. Isaiah is a character that in the comics was someone that was supposed to take over for Cap after he disappeared. Like his timeline is, he went to Korea basically. Yeah. And through whatever, you know, things didn't work out, or he wanted to, you know, his conscience was to do something else. He didn't want to be a government pawn. He was then jailed, which is what he says in the series. And then he was experimented on. This is where I posted in the group that, you know, all of a sudden they were saying, oh, well, this is obvious that, you know, we're going to see Luke Cage, because, you know, Luke Cage was experimented on in jail as well, and that's how he got his powers. Yeah. So, you know, there's a direct tie-in between Isaiah and Luke Cage. But from what I've read, the way that this is, and we've talked about this before, the way that all of this is setting up, they're setting up not only series that are going to take place after, or movies that are going to take place after, but we've already started to see how they're going to build the Young Avengers. We've seen Wiccan, we've seen Speed, and apparently, you know, Isaiah's grandson, something is, and I don't know if we'll see this in this series, but in the comics, he receives a blood transfusion from his grandfather, because he's about to die because of something that happens, and he inherits his father or his grandfather's superpower. So as a result, he is the Captain America of the Young Avengers, basically. And I don't know the exact name that is used. It's funny because last week I was watching some type of Easter egg thing, and they were like, "Oh, well, that's the reason that they bring up Sam Wilson's nephews is because one of the nephews becomes that specific, the young Cap in
Right.
Young Avengers." And now this week it was something else. So I mean, I don't know. In the continuance of the comics, obviously there can be multiple people that end up playing the same role in different iterations of a comic. So who knows? But the Isaiah thing is definitely interesting because, I mean, let's be honest, we're seeing that New Cap and Battlestar are just two jabronis that really have no powers. I mean, you could say that Sam has no powers without his suit or without his pack, but he's like an elite fighter as well. There's so many other layers to the Falcon character. I mean,
what I was just gonna say, I do like though right now that the way they're showing it, and I love right now. All we've seen is that very, very quick. We saw the. I loved how they opened with the locker room, and you kind of get a little bit of feel for John Walker, the type of guy he is. How he's feeling, which I enjoyed. I like that, and you get that very quick like flashback of him like using the shield like.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It looks
okay.
Like
you went out.
My
you
side.
Out for a second. Yeah.
Yeah, I just got a thing on my side talking about connection, which is weird because I have a strong connection, but I don't know what's going on. So apologies for anybody out there watching as we lost it. This is what happens sometimes with the technical stuff. But what I was saying, just to recap, was I really liked just that they were showing the training going on with him in the Shield, and so we're getting like very small glimpses of his backstory and his training, really small. And I feel like there's a lot more to unpack with him, and we could be getting set up because in the comics, I believe, right? Wasn't he a super? Didn't he have the serum? Wasn't he a super soldier?
Well, that's what I was
thought he did, right?
About to say, because there's another character that we saw who the Flag Smashers ran away from, who was Power Broker. And Power Broker apparently is someone in the comics who has powers like Mimic, who he can mimic several, superheroes' powers, but also it was kind of what I was trying to get at is that I guess he gave the serum, or he wanted the serum from the Flag Smashers so that he could sell it. And I think we're driving towards Battlestar and New Cap getting the serum themselves, where it's like, we need this to beat these guys, somehow or another. There's gonna be, they're gonna get the serum somehow, and that's where we're gonna end up seeing them. We're gonna see the heel turn, basically.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's gonna be a few things. We're gonna see, I think, that they don't have the respect of Bucky and Sam. And then
at least not yet. And who knows if that will happen, because are they going to work together, or are they going to become like real adversaries?
Yeah, I have a feeling that at the end of the series we're going to see a showdown between both teams, basically.
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, that's definitely something that I think is extremely plausible with everything going on and the way they're setting it up right now. The other thing I just wanted to comment on too, and I don't want to dwell too much on it, but I do think it's important because as we were talking about the Isaiah story and how they're tying in a lot of like real life situations that happened, to the African Americans with the Tuskegee experiment project, is they were also bringing in a lot of like. I was actually, my wife and I were shocked about how much social commentary they have been bringing in these last two episodes. And this is definitely emblematic of when the cops come and they stop. And once again, they're getting, they're ready to shake down Sam and be all up in his face. And, they're asking Bucky, are you okay? Like, just very like right in your face. Like, hey, they're and until they realize who he is, They leave him alone, and then obviously Bucky's the one that gets taken away in cuffs because we find out that he's the one that's broken his standing meeting as per the terms of his pardon with his therapist, with his Dr. Milfy.
Yeah.
But this is 2 weeks in a row now that they've done that, because it was that, and then the first episode they did it with the bank and the loan and the whole, and they're definitely, so I seem to see there's this, and I'm wondering if they're going to keep it going because it's something they're starting now, and how's that gonna, like, are they going to wrap that in? Is they gonna, so I like that they're injecting a lot of this right now, and I feel like that makes it very timely and relevant, and it's not just like superhero stuff. It's what we talked about, was that we're experiencing some real life stuff with these characters in a sense of, you know, what they've had to deal with coming back from the blip, so dealing with 5 years of being gone, obviously, you know, systemic racism and that going on too, and we're seeing that brought out on Sam, and we're just seeing all this, and then the real life PTSD that Bucky's having to deal with, because he has the memories of doing all these horrific murders under a different person, but he has to carry the weight of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, from what I've read, they've pointed out that this was going to be, initially, out of all of the Marvel properties, it's going to have the most amount of African-American actors and characters involved, and that outside of Black Panther was gonna be like the most geared towards African, you know, a lot of different social things that African American people have been dealing with. So it is it's interesting to me how they've worked it in. So it has, as you've said, it isn't just, oh, we have Sam and we have Battlestar and we have, you know, a bunch of different people that are just going to show up and they're just going to kind of be there. You know, they're not just going to be, you know, for lack of a better term, they're not going to be like side pieces that just kind of like fill in, you know, like different generic stereotypes to play the different, oh, well, you know, we need a black guy for the background. So, you know, that's it. It's a main focal point where they're pushing the comic book story, but they're also infusing things to make people, you know, interested. And that's why I think, you know, when I hear like a Martin Scorsese or other people like bitch about comics or comic book based entertainment, like, oh, you know, this stuff sucks. And the only thing that, you know, it's ruining our, you know, entertainment industry. And I'm thinking, you know, that's so one, you know, it's looking at things with horse blinders, because as I said, you know, when we talked about way back when Game of Thrones, and we had Corey on, who studied, you know, a lot of different things within like psychology and religion and different things like that. He talked about how, you know, a lot of the superheroes and their powers don't veer that far off course from like Roman gods or Greek gods and like stories that were first written thousands of years ago, like Hercules and things like that, and Zeus and you know, and even Norse gods, you know, if you want to look at it. So it isn't as if these superheroes are something new. It's just that we finally have, as we've talked about lots of times, we finally have the technology to make these stories believable and to come off. And, you know, sorry for anyone who's, you know, out there shaking their fist in the air saying, "Get off my lawn." You know, I'm sorry, you know, if.
Well, it's the same thing that goes back to like when comic books have been around forever. Like, oh, the comic books are not real. They're not real books. It's not real reading. You know, read The Adventures of Tom Sawyer or something like that. Like, great. And those are great. Like, read a good novel. But you know what? Comic books offer plenty literary commentary on things. And yes, it's like, oh, it's cartoons, but I'm telling you, you know, anybody who reads comic books knows that that's not the case. And from all ages, all generations, everybody who's ever read a comic book knows that that's not the case. That's the same thing as saying, well, comic book films aren't real or shows aren't real. Yeah. It's not real cinema or whatever. And that's the same way as saying, well, comic books aren't real. That's not real reading.
Yeah. How many things did Stan Lee write about, you know, when it came to Black Panther or Falcon or the X-Men or different things about social commentary, about rejects, like, you know, you know, that there was a place in the world for everyone, that, you know, there were so many things that they wrote about that, sorry, a lot of the classics kind of missed out on. And, you know, there's just so many things. And also, you know, I can't help it. I always bring up this analogy that I wrote years ago when I was reviewing a Rob Zombie album. I said, at the end of the day, if it entertains you, that's the only thing that matters. I don't need, you know, a million notes all over the fretboard. I don't need a drummer playing, you know, at 220 beats per minute every single song. You know, sometimes you just have to sit back, and even though it's not technically the best, as long as you like that melody, as long as you like the way that that song grooves, that's all that matters. As long as you like these movies, who gives a shit what anyone else says? Right. As long as they speak to you, and as long as the subject matter speaks to you. And a lot could be said about some old dude directing like his 100th mafia-based movie, you know? So, I mean, you could also say, hey, not for nothing, but when's the last time you wrote anything that has nothing to do with organized crime? So, exactly. You know, it's kind of it is a two-way street. If you critique something, you should also look inward and see that he hasn't. You know, it annoys me when Scorsese starts bringing up the same shit, and not for nothing. But the last movie, his 3-hour dredge fest that he had on Netflix, he was saying how crappy comic book movies were when one of the stars of his movie had just starred in The Joker. So, way to do your homework.
Yeah, well, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, okay.
But we digress.
Andy Rooney rant off.
Yeah, but we digress. So back into our reactions about this episode. Yes. But it was, I mean, so once we got past the whole police altercation thing, I loved the next scene where they're in jail and they get bailed out, but as part of their condition release, they had to do the therapy one last time, therapy session, and they get bailed out by or released by you know, U.S. soldier John Walker gets them out, but they have to do a quick therapy session, and that was awesome. That's what I think I texted you. Go, this episode's amazing. It's like Tango and Cash. It's like excellent. It's like so cool. And then, you know, and then we move on to like the whole thing where they're trying to track everybody, and that scene happens, which was which actually that happened past, but this is where isn't this where the text happens with where they go and they find a safe house, and she gets that text and it says, you know, I'm gonna find you and kill you or something like that. Is that after that scene?
I don't remember, but I mean, I'm assuming that's all the power broker stuff, you know, because they didn't turn in the serum when they were supposed to, and you know, I don't remember if that happened before that whole airport scene, or no, the airport scene was all the way at the end, wasn't it?
I believe it was, because that was when they were taking off, and then the one guy's like, hey, I'm going to stay behind and all that. So, but it was when they got to the safe house, and the guy was like, oh, we support you. You can stay wherever you want, your food. And he gives them the whole back room with the beds. And then she gets that text pops up, and it says like, I'm going to find you and I'm going to kill you. Or I'm going to kill you when I find you, or something like that. And that's when I was like, oh man, this is like crazy. And I was like, who do you think that is? And you're like, that's gotta be Power Broker. So
yeah. The other interesting thing, there's the guy that that kind of sacrificed himself. You could tell that his powers were kind of waning. So although they have this serum, it isn't exactly Steve Rogers' Bucky serum where
it's like embedded.
They've got it for good.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like they have to like continue, you know, it's like a tetanus shot. They have to continuously, they have to get it every X amount of time in order for them to continue to be a super soldier. Because
it seems like the process that Steve went through, and then it looks like eventually Bucky went through, was sort of this whole thing where, like, I mean, you remember, like, Steve Rogers was put in that chamber, and all those, you know, all those things were plugged into him, and it's like it almost pretty much like altered his entire like DNA, like it like stitched onto him the serum, and it's probably not the same process as you're saying, where, you know, it may just be the injection, and it, after it kind of clears through the system, you start to lose it, and you gotta keep it up. It doesn't just like stitch to your, you know, DNA or, you know, forever type of thing.
Right.
You know, and Bucky went through something similar on the Hydra side because they figured out how to do it, or stole the technology, or I forgot. Which is why I love how this wraps up, and they're going to see Zemo, because they're like, you know, we got to find out, and the only guy who knows all of Hydra's secrets right now that they know about is Zemo. And I love how that kind of transitions, and you just get that like last shot of him looking up. It's a great cliffhanger for going into episode 3. So I'm excited to see that. Like, so I mean, overall, I think you and I are on the same page with this. This was a great second episode. They definitely paired them up faster than we both thought. Great action sequences, furthered the story, went deeper on a lot of the social issues we were just describing. So I'm still hooked, man. I'm still hooked. I'm in.
Me too. And from the action sequences, I told my wife right away, I was like, yeah, there's a reason why they were only able to do 6 of these, because there's, again, you mentioned it last week, that's cinema. It's cinema quality. Everything that we're seeing here.
No, it doesn't look like they spared any expense. Like, they didn't chintz out at all. Like, this was like, they could have absolutely, this is like motion picture or theater rollout quality, except that we're seeing it play out over basically 6 hours.
Yeah. The other thing too is you have to think that, you know, this is like cornerstone material where, you know, years from now, when people kind of take for granted some of these series and, you know, some of this stuff, we're going to look back and say, wow, you know, they, like you said, they really didn't spare anything to get, you know, the MCU off the ground on Disney Plus. And it's not just a continuation of, you know, the same old storytelling. It is factoring all these different things. Another interesting thing that I wanted to bring up before wrapping up the Falcon and Winter Soldier part of the episode is Cineblend actually posted this out, or pointed this out, excuse me. By the time this series is done, we're going to see more of Falcon and Winter Soldier than we've seen of Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel, and like other like characters that have had their you know, that have had movies based on them. So characters that you could consider to be secondary characters will have ended up on screen for longer than a lot of other you know, characters on that have been in the MCU.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, we're getting, you know, between the WandaVision show, where we got to spend all this time, I think, you know, with Wanda and Vision, and then now we're getting, you know, all this like deep insight into Sam, you know, Falcon, and Bucky. It's great. I mean, we're really getting a lot of good stuff.
Yep, I agree. 100%.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, cool. I'm looking forward to episode 3, which will be airing tomorrow. And of course, as always, we'll be back next week to talk about our reactions to that episode. And I'm excited.
Absolutely. Me too.
Cool. All right. Coming up next, our next topic here is boom. Warner Brothers cancels Aquaman spin-off.
Yeah, and the movie New Gods. It's interesting because we're fresh off of Zack Snyder, Euphoria.
Yeah.
You would think that maybe, they would push the whole, their comic book side of things more. But, we've had all this Shazam 2 talk, and we've had all this Black Adam talk.
Right.
And, maybe, with the pandemic and everything else, they're doing the numbers. They're doing the numbers. And
wretched numbers.
the numbers, and they're realizing that it's just not going to happen, and maybe, I don't know. Obviously, Aquaman worked because there were a lot of big name actors in it. If you really look at it, from Jason, Jason Momoa.
Yep.
You had Amber Heard, you had William Dafoe, you had a lot of, you had the guy from
some heavy hitters.
Yeah, from Better Call Saul, the I forget the lawyer's name, the blonde guy who gets killed off early on in the movie.
You have Nicole Kidman.
Nicole Kidman, yeah. So with all the other characters that they've already tried to establish, I don't know that it made sense to automatically, just do an Aquaman spin-off all of a sudden. This isn't, for example, this isn't a Nightwing movie. It isn't all of a sudden where we're deciding that it's going to be a character that's been involved heavily already in a series of movies, and they're going to get their own property.
Right.
It's just one movie based on Aquaman. Sure, Jason Momoa showed up in a bunch of other things, but let's be honest. It's Jason Momoa swimming in the ocean, which garners a certain audience. And if that were to be Woody Harrelson, let's say, who's still a very big actor,
yep.
Are we talking about a spinoff? I don't know. I think the appeal is it's a Jason Momoa movie. It's a Jason Momoa movie set with him as Aquaman. The stereotypical Aquaman does not look like Jason Momoa. They've been able to pull off the Arnold Schwarzenegger Mr. Freeze in a different way, because I think there's a coolness factor to Jason Momoa, and there's a sex appeal factor to Jason Momoa that Arnold didn't have and that Batman movie was just terrible.
What about a Vinny Chase Aquaman?
Vinny Chase Aquaman would have been cool. Would have been cool years ago. I love that series. Entourage is one of in my top 5 favorite series of all time. But
let's get that trending.
Yeah,
it's restore the Snyder cut, restore Vincent Chase Aquaman.
Yeah, the weird thing though with that, when Me Too happened though, Entourage took a big hit. I know a lot of the actors. Yeah, I know that there was a lot of Jeremy Piven stuff that came out, and then there was talk of, I saw people saying that movie. Or that series promoted rape culture and all this.
It was, it's definitely something now where it seems like, as funny as we all find it and all that, but there is a certain part of that film now or that series that's a little it's not of the times right now, so it needs to sort of lay low for a bit.
Sure. There are a few things, but I think at the end of it, I think what I enjoyed out of that series more than anything, and it's similar to other things that I've talked about, is the relationship between the 4 main characters. It was kind of, sure, it was in a more decadent Hollywood probably. I know that a lot of those characters, a lot of the agency scenes, would not be taking place. But at the same time, you also have to think, Beverly D'Angelo's role was a lot like a female, like Ari Gold, if you really think about it.
Yeah, well, that was his, But anyway, we digress.
Yeah, sorry.
We digress. But just to bring it back to the WB canceling Aquaman spinoff, yes, pandemic probably has to do with this, but does and I know we have a lot to get to, so I don't want to go too deep into this, but is all the hype about the Snyder Cut and now the trending of, restore the Snyderverse and all that stuff, is this playing an effect? Because Warner Brothers has said we're not going to do the Justice League 2 and 3 that was planned. That's not happening. At least that's what they're saying now. Just like they said, we'll never do the Snyder Cut, and that'll never happen. So, But do you think that this is playing an effect, or was this just a decision that was made kind of a while ago because of finances and the pandemic, and they're just like, you know what, maybe the audience isn't there for these films right now, and why bother, right? It's just something we don't have to do. And we know that Hollywood's littered with stuff like this. I mean, this isn't a something new. Like, there's tons of films that are unmade, scripts written, and they just go.
Yeah. Well, I think also you have to think that WB is also pushing a lot of stuff through the CW. They just launched Lois and Lois and Clark, and they're developing a bunch of other series still that are going to go on CW and directly to HBO Max. Again, Warner Brothers, unfortunately, has just been playing catch up behind Disney and Marvel. And I still think that they have a niche with a teen crowd, and how they're, things like
Riverdale and all these shows.
Riverdale and, Titans and things like that really fit that niche. And I think that they're being kind of asinine in the sense of, they're continuously putting out Lulu. They want to placate to a crowd that they're not going to win over. It's Lars Ulrich wanting to have that artistic rock audience give kudos to Metallica, and it's never going to happen. So I think that Warner Brothers is kind of falling into that, and every time that they try something, maybe this is going to work out to be like another. This will be the launch of the DCU. No, this will be the launch of the DCU. No, you have some properties that have worked. Don't mess with that and stick to what's worked. All these. We're going to talk about Suicide Squad in a second, but that's kind of its own thing. It's James Gunn, and it seems fabulous so far. There's no reason for that to be dark and heavy and whatnot. Even Marvel at its darkest and heaviest finds a punchline to stick in there. Stan Lee always worked in a joke into everything. There was always some quip. There was always something in the weirdest moment. There was something lighthearted said. The heaviest that Marvel has gotten has been Deadpool, and that movie isn't dark at all.
Dark humor is really what it is. Yeah,
it's dark humor. Yeah, the darkest they've gotten is the end of Infinity War and the blip, and a lot of the stuff that we're seeing now in this. Yeah, so that was just way off base, but but Thor Dark World was just boringly dark, and that's I think the point that Warner Brothers is missing with this. To me, Shazam has worked. Like you said last week, Aquaman has worked to an extent. Those CW shows have worked.
First Wonder Woman worked really well, and the second one could have worked. It just missed the mark. That's and I think that was just editing, not a great script. There's a bunch of things in there. I think some miscast. It just wasn't as good of a story.
And they held on to it way too long, and the expectation just kept building and building and building. So by the time that everyone got to it, it was like, this is what we were waiting for. It was kind of it
was a little anticlimactic. Yeah,
it was billed as the movie of the year, and we ended up getting a TV movie, an after school special. So I think their problem is that they're trying to compete with Infinity War and Endgame instead of saying, you know what, here's our niche. This is what we work good at. Right. This is where we're making money. Let's not let's not just waste money like doing all this other stuff. And I mean, there's still, you know, the Batman that's about to come out,
the Robert Pattinson Batman, which I am excited about. I like Matt Vaughn, and I like what I'm hearing. I like what I've seen so far.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, listen, I'm a big Batman fan, so I'm excited. And if this is going to focus more on the detective side, it's just something I've been wanting for years. I'm excited, and I think Matt Vaughn's a really good director. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this is going to be a really good quality Batman film, the film we all deserve as Batman fans. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I mean, they got things on the slate, on a docket coming out, and I was a DC guy before I was into Marvel. I always gravitated towards DC. Batman was always my big thing for years. I mean, I was just, for a while, I felt like all I read was Batman with other things. And then as I grew older, I got more into Marvel things, the different titles. But DC was my first, like, the books that I bought and like read. Like that was my introduction into comics.
Yeah, it's funny. I think every friend I've had over the years has been like that. Like all of my friends growing up were all DC, and I was like the lone Marvel guy. But because I think DC for the longest time just had
I love the stories.
Fan base.
Yeah. I was devouring all the Batman stuff for years. I mean, I loved it. All the different titles, Detective Comics, and I thought it was great. You know, the art, the story. I just was like, well, I don't need anything else in my life right now. This is great.
Yeah.
But you know, it was. But I'm glad I eventually got into it, and I was like, oh wow, these stories are cool too, and you know. But everybody needs that jumping off point, so that was mine. But that's why, like, I get so bummed when I see this, because I'm like, man, Warner Brothers universe is so vast and so amazing, and the stories and the heroes and it's truly great. And I do think that the villains, the rogues gallery is amazing. It's just. And you just get bummed because I'm like, how do you continually keep like just tripping out of the gate? And you get some cool like bright spots, and you're like, oh, this is great. Here we go.
Finally,
we're gonna get it. And then But I and we do have a lot of other things to get to, so we'll get to them. But and we still have to do our Snyder cut show, which we'll dedicate to pretty much talking about that. But you know, I will say watching the Snyder cut got me excited about DC again. By no means, I'm not a perfect film, but I loved seeing more about these characters that I really like and go a little bit more into like the spots that we always wanted them to go to. So I was actually like, really happy about it, but that's that's another show. So, all right. So moving along, Suicide Squad trailer. You watched it. I watched it. You want me to bring it up here?
Yeah, the one that I sent you now is a completely new one.
Oh, is trailer number 2? Yeah,
trailer number 2. It supposedly focuses on Nathan Fillion. I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, here we go. We're gonna play it right now. I'm gonna share my screen, and we're gonna do this. We're gonna do it together. Here we go. And boom. Action.
Oh, no audio. Can you hear the audio?
Yeah.
Okay. It's not coming over the...
Oh, it's not?
No. That's fine. I mean, the imagery is just, Jesus, that looks straight out of Guardians. I'm sorry, that jail scene.
Yeah.
So this, I mean, a lot of this is from that first trailer.
Yeah.
And I'm not seeing anything that's really...
No, just different cut.
Yeah. That's weird. I've been reading that that John Cena has been doing interviews in his Peacemaker costume. Yeah.
Has he?
Yeah, and that apparently James Gunn has been loving his dedication to the...
There's a few new shots here.
Yeah. he's going to get his own series. So, I mean, this is 100% James Gunn. I mean, this is and let's be honest. You know, we talked about this last episode.
Right.
Guardians had a lot to do with Marvel pivoting because, you know, we got the Thor Dark World and we got, you know, some Iron Man movies that some people didn't exactly love. And that first Captain America, I know that a lot of people weren't exactly fans of, where they said, you know, so James Gunn had a lot to do. Him and the Russo brothers had a lot to do with Marvel becoming what it is now. This trailer looks 100% like like what we've already seen.
There's a bunch of new scenes near the end of it.
But for the most part, I mean, so here's the thing that I want to ask you. Is it possible that this could be a turning point for DC as well?
Well, you know, looking at the first trailer and the second trailer, I mean, it's definitely bringing in, I think, the elements that, well, once again, this is James Gunn's fingerprints all over it. I know we keep saying it, and if you've seen Guardians of the Galaxy, this is like 1,000% his handiwork, which you could see all over it. But I think that this is sort of what I'm seeing. The energy that they need to get people like sucked in, and I think that that you got a good cast here. You know, everybody's already in love with Margot Robbie as if we're going to talk about home runs and positive things about DC, casting Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn has been by far one of the best things that they've done for this year, other than Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, who just is phenomenal. But which I also love that you have two amazing female actors who are like just so good at these characters and have totally owned them, have really helped to bring a very strong fan base. And this is what, you know, not only new fans, but existing fans wanted to see. So having them be involved, these are some serious bright spots. And then you see like Idris Elba's in it, you know, who's also, you know, involved in the Thor films. And so him being involved, great actor, you know, Cena's in there. And of course he's got great appeal, you know, universal appeal for people. You've got, you know, forgot his name, who plays Captain Boomerang. He's back a little bit, you know, and then you're introducing some of these other cool characters from the DC universe, like, and even got Starro in there, which is cool. Like that's a great DC comic book villain. Like that's awesome. Like seeing Starro show up is so cool. So I'm excited for it. The trailers got me amped. I just hope the film doesn't fall flat. And we like James Gunn. We know what he's capable of. Is this just going to be Guardians with villains? Probably. We're probably going to get that. I mean,
is that a bad thing?
I don't think it's a bad thing because I personally enjoy it. And, you know, I don't know. I like that style and he does it really well. I mean, that's why you hire a director, right? To bring their touch on things. And so I think I'm excited. I think it's cool. I'm going into it with open mind and I'm pumped. I'll tell you, I'm more excited to see this than I was the first Suicide Squad. Yeah. The first Suicide Squad, that made me like, oh, I just cringe. I'm like, oh.
I mean, it was all right. I mean, I saw it in the theaters.
Will Smith was great, and she was great, and Margot Robbie were great. I liked Will Smith's version of Deadshot. I liked it. I thought he was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We thought at the time, we're like, oh, he's definitely getting his own movie.
Yes.
And it just never like materialized.
Yeah. I would love to see him as Deadshot. I think he'd be great. I mean, he was great in that.
Yeah. It's interesting because I don't know how long Gunn is signed on with Warner Brothers DC. I know that, you know, he's doing another Guardians movie.
Right.
But let's be honest, no James Gunn, no Taika Waititi in the MCU. Yeah, it definitely opened the door because it was someone who was of similar style. It was someone who was off the wall. And also, again, Russo brothers had a lot to play with it. Russo brothers came from a comedy background. Their big claim to fame was working with Community. And that's where, or on the show Community, and that's where they fell flat with Lord and
Lord, yeah,
Lord and Miller.
Yeah, Lord and Miller for Solo.
For Solo, that's the mistake where instead of they thought that anyone that worked in comedy was gonna work, not that the Russo brothers were huge fans, not that Taika Waititi was a huge fan, not that James Gunn was a huge fan. Once they found comedy people that knew how to mix both, to kind of mix both ends of the spectrum with
they blend it well. They can bring the comedy, but they know when they gotta bring some drama, make it heavy.
Again, here's another name that I'm going to throw out there: Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi is probably the pioneer of all of this,
just gonna say that.
Which is why it makes so much sense that Marvel has brought him in, because these are the kind of directors that love the subject material.
These guys all grew up on comic books, like loving them, especially Sam Raimi. He's talked about it for years and years and years, how much he's loved comic books.
Which is why, again, for me, the big turnoff, when you look back at the Nolan movies, he's aghast that they wanted to continue how can they continue the Batman character without me? I retired him. It's like, no, character's been around for 100 years. Why would they not take one of their hottest properties and use them again? Why would you bring in, I get it. You bring in an Ang Lee, you bring in a Nolan, you bring in Tim Burton, you bring in people that were Schumacher, people that were big, and you thought, okay, well, it's going to be a meeting of, there's a big name director with, a big property, so it has to work. And I mean, I know that a lot of people have a fondness for those Tim Burton movies, but how far did they stray from the original subject material where it became a Tim Burton movie instead of a Batman movie?
That's typically what happens with Tim Burton.
Yeah, but I mean,
but that's what you get when you work with Tim Burton. You're gonna get a Tim Burton movie,
which is why it made no sense for Lord Miller to come in to do Solo, because their track record was to do this. It wasn't, hey, we're the Russo brothers. We love these comics. We know the subject material, and we know where we need to go.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's just, I just think it's just like, I think it's a point of, you want a director because of what they do, their vision, their creativity, and what can they bring to this material to make it fresh, to make it unique, to make it stand out, to make it pop, all these different things. And sometimes it pays off big, and sometimes it completely falls flat. And I feel like DC's just made, them getting Patty Jenkins involved, awesome. Getting James Gunn involved, awesome. Like, they've made some great moves, but they've also taken a lot of gambles that just didn't go their way, unfortunately. Yeah. So, and that's just as what it is. So anyway, looking forward to this film, and I can't wait. And then we'll be breaking it down and talking about that. I know we're starting to run short on time, but we want to get through some of these other quick bits here.
Which I think, let's just do quick hits out of what's left.
All right, let's do it.
Because, yeah, because if not, we're going to go on for 3 hours tonight.
That's true. We got a lot to say, baby.
Yeah. Godzilla versus Kong. Best opening day since the pandemic has started.
That's theatrical release?
Yes.
Yeah. It makes sense, I think, because more people are vaccinated, more places have opened up, and people are feeling a little more comfortable going, even though some, like here in New Jersey, it's still 50% capacity. But I know other states are fully open. I mean, New York is back open. They got 50% theaters. So I think as more people get vaccinated, they feel safer. They're going to go. And honestly, this is a film that you should see on a screen. You should see this on a big screen. It's Godzilla versus Kong, for crying out loud. I will be watching it on TV, though, this weekend. So
it'll be like
I'm saving
the old WPIX Sundays. You got Laurel and Hardy and a Godzilla movie.
Yeah, well, when I want, like, what was it on US? Or Monster Week, when it used to, whoever was dressed up in a costume would come on, like on USA, it was Captain USA, and he coming up next is he had the cigar.
Well, you also had the Rhonda Shear Up All Night would also
Rhonda Shear Up All Night. Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Godzilla and Kong director Adam Wingard to direct the Thundercats movie. Thundercats Ho.
Snarf. Yeah. I'm excited. I love Thundercats. I want to see a Thundercats film. It's Thundercats. It's due time.
Yeah.
It's a great property.
Mila Jovovich has said she wants to play Chitara. Vin Diesel is supposedly going to play a mystery part.
I don't want. Yeah. As in a new character?
Yeah. When I heard that, I'm like, can he be Panther maybe because of his build and whatnot?
Should get Ian McDermott to play Mumra.
There you go. Rick and Morty just announced new season coming June 20th.
So excited.
Yeah. Two things. You pointed out off air just how great everything looks. Seems like they really upped the the production value of this. And a lot of people have been pointing out how a lot of the things in the trailer showed the entire family together, which is really like the first time we've seen that in the series run. You usually see, obviously Rick with Morty, or you'll see Summer with Rick, or or we'll see.
You get like little pockets of like team ups,
as opposed to the full, the full Avenger team up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last time we saw the whole family together was when Rick at Bird Person's wedding, and then they went and they
went to that planet, the
tiny planet, and then Rick was arrested, and then it's been kind of separate since then, I think. So, yeah, I'm excited to see this, and I always love when they gang up on Jerry and do Jerry stuff, and it looks like we're gonna have some like homages to looks like a Submariner type character, and Hellraiser a bit, and and some other, and they always do a great job of paying homage to like classic films and characters.
Yep. Yeah. So far from the trailer, I would say I like what you've got.
I like what you got.
Show me what you've got. Oh yeah.
I love it all the time. It's so good.
Oh man. I've said before, I think the Price is Right horn is my wife's text message. For a while there, Get Swifty was my wife's phone
a ringer.
The tone. The phone ringer. Yeah, there you go. So. Ringtone. Sputtering and muttering. The other thing that came up today was that there's going to be a Rick and Morty Babies, a playoff of like Muppet Babies on Adult Swim Junior. Apparently, they debuted an episode last night at midnight, which was a play on
Babies.
But it was an old Rick and Morty episode, but done like babies. It was the episode that's a play on Total Recall.
Yes. Okay. Yep.
So Total Rick Call. Yeah. Anyway, you brought it up already. Knives Out 2 and 3, Netflix exclusive. They paid almost $500 million to get these two movies.
Good on Ryan Johnson because he wrote these. This is his. I was a little shocked even though there was going to be a 2 and 3, considering I felt like everything was completely wrapped up after 1.
Well, you did have
without giving it away because it is a mystery, so I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, so we won't spoil it, but I just felt like there was an ending to 1.
Right. I agree, although there was a like small loophole left at the end with 2 characters.
I may have to rewatch it just to kind of wrap my head around it.
There's a loophole with a U.S. agent there at the end.
Okay, yeah, I did like it though. So I
thought it was good too.
Yeah, if nobody out there's watched Knives Out, I highly recommend watching it. It's very cool. It's a cool like back to basics to me, like murder mystery, very Clue like. Yeah, not with the comedy, but just has a lot of cool like twists and turns. No sci-fi, no superheroes, nothing like that. The
closest thing is Ryan Johnson. So
yeah, Ryan Johnson. Even though Captain America's in it.
Yes.
Chris Evans, there's no superpower stuff at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Daisy Ridley is now saying that she didn't throw her hat in the ring for Spider-Woman. She was pretty much asked during an interview, would you be interested in playing Spider-Woman? She said, oh, that would be great.
I think she'd be great. I think she'd be great.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think she'd be cool. I like her. Yeah. I think she's... You know what I like about her? She seems so willing to just do different roles and take chances, and she seems to have a good time when she does them. And she's physical. I don't know. I think she seems to really enjoy these types of roles. Like, and you know, so I think she'd be cool. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see her take on it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it would be cool. You know, like everything else Marvel, you get the right people to write the script and the right director to helm it. I think it'll
work. It could work. Yeah. And once again, she's a good actor.
Yeah. So agreed. So Mark Hamill and Sebastian Stan. So
it continues.
Yes, it continues. So apparently someone asked Mark Hamill via Twitter about, you know, Sebastian Stan's comments.
Right.
And he basically responded with the fact that he has no say as to, you know, who Lucasfilms casts. So he's, you know, more or less saying, you know, yeah, regardless what I have to say, they're going to do whatever they want.
Right.
So,
but does that mean that he's not a fan of Sebastian Stan? Are we going to read in between the lines on this, or is it just this what it is? He's just like, listen, it doesn't matter what I say or what I think. They're going to cast whoever they want.
Yeah, I think it would be the latter of the two of what you said, because I mean, I think, you know, he seems to be, especially now in 2021, he seems to be, you know, a good guy, and I don't think that he would have issues with Sebastian Stan.
I mean, he's a professional. He's an actor. He gets it. And and the thing about with him is he's a fan of the character. He's a fan of the story. Yeah. And I think he wants to see it live on. He wants to see the character live on, which is part of his legacy.
Yep.
And if you got a guy like Sebastian Stan who fits casting wise, fits the look, and is also a good actor.
Yeah. I think very important.
It would be stupid of Disney to drop the ball on this one.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you have the endorsement of the original, and then you've got a guy who is like would do it and would do it really well. And so from a fan perspective, I think we'd all be super happy with it. And I just think for anybody new coming in would work well.
Yeah.
That's my take. With you. That's my hot take.
Yeah. Hot take.
Hot take.
And the final point, also Mark Hamill and Sebastian Stan. Heroic Hollywood is reporting that Sebastian Stan will play Luke Skywalker in an upcoming Disney Plus series. The rest of the rest of it is pretty much just filler. So there's nothing like saying, oh, well, the title of the series will be this, and it will deal with...
Wait, so where's that source from?
Heroic Hollywood.
So not Disney confirmed.
No.
Not Variety, not any of the major outlets.
Are you saying that Heroic Hollywood isn't major?
I'm just saying that it's an interesting thought. I just would like to see where they got that scoop from. Because I don't see any of the other big outlets reporting it. So it can't, to me, it means it can't be verified. Doesn't make it not true.
Right.
It's just unverified.
Well, there's been a story that we've been running these last few weeks with. According to Chris Baglio in the Galaxy of Geeks, Spider-Man will show up in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So remember, you know, we could be as credible as Heroic Hollywood.
And this is because I said he won't be in it. I said Spider-Man will absolutely not be in Falcon Winter Soldier. And because I'm saying it's not, it means for you, it means it's definitely happening.
Let's not forget, Chris is the same person that said, there's no way Luke Skywalker shows up in Mandalorian. And Doctor Strange shows up absolutely in WandaVision. So, you know, that
I am 0 for 2. I'm 0 for 2.
Spider-Man will be in.
All right.
Winter Soldier and Bucky.
Maybe I'll be 1 and 2.
Maybe he shows up in Winter Soldier and Bucky and not in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Maybe the Mephisto and Bucky show he shows up in. Is there a better chance of Spider-Man or Mephisto showing up in Falcon and Winter Soldier?
I think there's a better chance of
Dr. Strange showing.
Michael Fassbender showing up as Magneto and saying that Richard Boner is actually his son.
Then Spider-Man or Mephisto showing up in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Then let me tell you something. Brother. If that happens, okay, we need to start sending press releases out to all these to the Nerdist and to all these other sites and saying, listen, you should be carrying our podcast because through osmosis, we didn't go on Reddit. We didn't go on to any type of nefarious forum. We didn't use the Tor. We didn't go on the dark web.
The dark web.
We pulled it out of our ass and got it right. Okay? But you know, you need to start respecting who we are, damn it.
And our powers of intuition.
Yes, and our powers of just getting lucky, but whatever.
Right. All right, but we digress. Okay, so here we go. Wrapping it up.
Yes.
So that's that on that. So
yes.
If there's a chance, just one final word, and then we're done. If there is a chance that he'll show up at any show, it would be Ahsoka. That's my prediction.
Who, Spider-Man?
Oh, Luke Skywalker.
And
then we're done.
Like everything else. I think if you bring Sebastian Stan in, it has to be to fill in that 30-year gap.
Well, of course, but this could be a kickoff. I don't know. I feel like Ahsoka, she's on a journey. She search. I don't know. It's just, and then she's looking for Thrawn. I don't know. Is there a potential if they cross paths somewhere? And
yeah, here's the thing. Timeline wise, they have to see now. I'm thinking again. Mandalorian technically takes place 5 years after Jedi.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
So it is plausible that at the beginning of Ahsoka, Luke and her could have an interaction, and then that still ties into them filling in that 25-year gap at that point.
I'm not talking about him being in the whole show. I'm talking about an interaction, and then that's it.
So you're not saying that he would be the Bucky to her Winter Soldier?
That's correct.
Okay. Here's another question for you. And this will be the last thing that I bring up.
All right, this is it.
Obi-Wan is supposed to be 3 episodes, which is supposed to be like 3 films, basically. Like the rumor is it's going to be like 2 hours long each episode.
Right.
Does the success of Mandalorian, WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier break that up into hour-long episodes instead?
I think potentially, yes. I mean, they're going to look at this stuff. I think it's all about what's going to get people to subscribe and stay on the app, right? So if they have to break it up to keep more people on the app longer, which then, maybe gets them into subscribing to the next thing or watching the next show that drops. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what it's about, right? Engagement. Keep people on the app. Keep them on a platform. Don't let them go. I mean, that's like anything. Even like YouTube. We're on YouTube. YouTube's all about keep you on the app. Watch stuff. Get recommended, and just keep going down a rabbit hole. Keep you on as long as you can. That's what all these services are like. Keep you on as long as you possibly can. So yes, I could see that being a decision that they film it and then they decide to cut it up a little bit differently to maybe string it out to like maybe 4 to fill up a month. Something like that, or maybe do a 6 thing. I don't know. Maybe they shoot a little extra. I don't know.
Similar to now. Once this series ends, we're getting Bad Batch in May.
Right, Bad Batch, and and then we got Loki. So it's like boom, 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 boom. Keep me on the app. That's what they're doing. Keep us on the app.
Yeah, absolutely. They're giving people a reason to not cancel. So.
Which I'm fine. If you keep giving me that, I will not cancel.
Yeah.
So you got me. You got my money.
Absolutely.
All right. So with that, we are going to wrap up this week's edition of the show. Thank you, everybody who was watching live and commenting and having a shared experience with us, a shared fandom experience. We really appreciate you. Thank you to everybody who is watching, or will be watching the replay of this. And of course, everybody who will be listening to the audio version of this on the podcast. We truly appreciate you. And as always, please make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you're watching or listening to this, so that way you always get notified when we put a new episode out or when we go live. Also, if you want to hang out and contribute and hang out with other like-minded fans in a safe place where there's no trolls or anybody like that, you can always set up troll-free zone. Galaxy of Geeks Facebook group is where you want to be at. It's free. All you got to do is go to Facebook and search Galaxy of Geeks group, and we'll let you in. And there's about 200 plus members in there, everybody hanging out, contributing, talking about all the things that we're all fans of. So you are welcome to join us in there anytime you want. And of course, we do broadcast this show live every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you can watch it there. You can watch it on YouTube, and I think somewhere else on Facebook too. But definitely in the group and on YouTube, on the Galaxy of Geeks YouTube channel.
Yep. And I'll also remind people that we do have the Twitter and the Instagram as well, so you can follow us on several social media platforms.
Yes, absolutely. And when all else fails, you can go to galaxyofgeeks.net, where you can have access to everything, and including downloading episodes if you don't subscribe to any of the podcast services or anything like that. Everything's there. That's home base, and you can get access to everything Galaxy Geeks related there. So
that's it.
Yep.
Correct.
So
on that note, once again, we thank you, and we will see you next time right here on the Galaxy of Geeks live stream podcast, so on and so forth. Watch it.